Welcome, everyone. Today's story is not just about a company. It's about an idea. An idea that was born out of frustration, rejection, and failure. It's about two people who were not tech gods, not billionaires, not famous when they started. They were just two normal human beings, with one small question in their minds. Why can't watching movies be easier? Why do people still suffer for renting entertainment? This simple frustration turned into a quiet revolution. This quiet revolution destroyed Blockbuster, one of the biggest movie companies in the world. And from that destruction, a new empire was born: Netflix. In this video, we are going deep, very deep, into the full, real, and detailed story of Netflix. We will cover everything: how it started with a $40 late fee, how people laughed at the idea, how the founders were rejected and insulted, how they nearly went bankrupt, how they offered their company to Blockbuster and were humiliated, how they came back with a silent plan that destroyed the giant, and how they became one of the most powerful companies on Earth, changing the way the entire world watches movies. This is not just a business story. This is a story of revenge without violence, obsession without fame, building in silence while everyone doubted you, turning rejection into motivation, outsmarting those who once laughed at you. So if you're someone who has ever been told, your idea is stupid, you can't do this, no one cares what you're building, then stay with me, because this story is going to prove something powerful to you. You don't need to be loud to win. You just need to be consistent, patient, and quietly obsessed. This story isn't just for motivation. It's also great for your English. You'll hear real vocabulary about business, risk, emotion, and success in easy and clear English. You'll learn how to understand big ideas like rejection, obsession, growth, innovation, mindset. Every sentence in this story is written to help you improve listening skills, learn sentence structure, build confidence in understanding English naturally. And because it's told like a movie, you'll stay engaged, and that helps your brain remember English longer. So if you're learning English, this story will help you grow fast, without feeling like you're studying. Now, let's begin the full journey. Here is part 1 of the true, detailed, and powerful story of Netflix. Part 1. The $40 mistake that started a revolution. In 1997, a man named Reed Hastings returned a rented movie to Blockbuster, the most powerful video rental company in America at the time. But he was late, and Blockbuster charged him $40 in late fees. Now imagine this. Reed was not poor. He had money. He was a software engineer. He was educated. But that one late fee made him angry in a way no one expected. He thought, "Why am I paying a fine for entertainment? This doesn't feel fair." He didn't forget the movie. He wasn't irresponsible. He was just busy, like most people. But Blockbuster didn't care. That $40 fine planted a seed in Reed Hastings' mind. A seed made of frustration, curiosity, and a quiet whisper that said, there has to be a better way. At that time, Blockbuster was a giant. They had more than 9,000 stores all over the world. People lined up to rent VHS tapes and DVDs. But their system was old, frustrating, and unfair. You had to go to the store physically, pick a DVD, remember to return it within a few days. And if you forgot, you were punished with a late fee, sometimes more than the cost of the movie itself. And Reed thought, what if people didn't have to go to the store? What if people could choose movies from home? What if there were no late fees at all? Now pause for a second. This is very important. Millions of people had this same frustration, but they just complained and moved on. Reed did something different. He turned frustration into fuel. Reed had a friend and business partner named Mark Randolph. He wasn't a billionaire. He didn't come from a rich family. He was just a dreamer who loved ideas, storytelling, and entrepreneurship. One day, Reed walked into Mark's office and said, "What if we create a service that lets people rent movies? By mail?" Mark was confused. Mail? Like people order a movie and we ship it to them? Reed nodded. Yes, and no late fees, and they can keep it as long as they want. That moment, in a simple office with 0 investors, 0 team, 0 technology, was the birth of Netflix. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a product, but they had a vision. Make renting movies fair, easy, and modern. Before launching anything, they decided to do a test. They took a CD, not even a movie DVD, just a music CD. They put it inside a small envelope. They wrote an address. They dropped it in the mailbox. Then, they waited. Would it break? Would it arrive? Would it get lost? A few days later, the CD arrived. Perfectly. That one moment told them, it's possible. We can do this. The first version of Netflix, 1997. They built a small website. It had a few movies listed. Very basic design. Users could go online, click a movie, and get it by mail. There were no ads, no streaming, no big studios behind them. Just 2 men, a few employees, and a vision. They named it Netflix, a combination of internet and flicks, slang for movies. It was simple, strange, and new. People didn't trust it at first. Why would I rent a movie from a website? I already have Blockbuster. But Netflix didn't stop. They knew something Blockbuster didn't. The future is not about punishment. It's about freedom. In 1999, Netflix made a bold move. They introduced a monthly subscription plan. Instead of paying per movie, users could pay a small monthly fee, rent as many movies as they wanted, keep them as long as they liked, and return them when they were ready. No late fees. It was unheard of. Nobody in the video industry was doing this. But it solved a huge problem. And slowly, the world started to listen. At this stage, Blockbuster was still laughing. They were making billions from late fees. They thought Netflix was a toy, a joke. But Netflix was growing, not loudly, not quickly, but quietly, one customer at a time. People who tried it loved it, because it was simple, kind, and modern. And this quiet storm was about to become a massive wave. By the year 2000, Netflix was growing, but very slowly. They had a loyal base of customers who loved the subscription model. They were sending DVDs by mail every day. People appreciated the no late fees, the freedom, and the comfort of choosing movies from home. But behind the scenes, Netflix was bleeding money. They were spending more than they were earning. They had warehouses to manage. They had to pay for shipping, employees, servers, customer service. But they weren't profitable. They were losing millions of dollars. He knew Netflix was doing something great. He believed the world would change. But time was running out. They had no backup if they failed, and no one wanted to invest. So one day, Reed made a bold decision. He walked into Mark Randolph's office and said, "Let's offer to sell Netflix." Mark was surprised. "To who?" Reed replied. "To the giant, to Blockbuster." That was the moment that would change everything. Reed and Mark booked a meeting with John Antioco, the CEO of Blockbuster. This was a huge deal. Blockbuster was worth billions. They had over 9,000 stores in more than 20 countries. They were making money from every direction: rental fees, snacks, video games, and especially late fees. Netflix? Just a startup with losses. But Reed believed that if Blockbuster understood the vision, they would join forces. He thought, what if Netflix became the online arm of Blockbuster? We handle the website, the DVD mailing, and Blockbuster handles the stores. It could be a win-win. They flew to Dallas, walked into Blockbuster's luxurious office, and sat across the table. Reed explained the idea passionately. He said, "You dominate physical stores. We dominate online rentals. Let's partner." Or, "You can buy Netflix." John Antioco asked, "For how much?" Reed said, $50 million. There was silence in the room. Then, they laughed. Yes, they laughed, right in their faces. $50 million for a DVD website that loses money? Blockbuster's executives mocked them. To them, Netflix was nothing. Just a tiny business with no physical presence. A joke. Reed and Mark left the meeting with red faces and a fire in their chest. They weren't just rejected, they were humiliated. That moment changed everything. Reed looked at Mark and said, "All right then, let's destroy them." They didn't fight back with words. They didn't post on social media. They didn't complain to the world. They did something 10 times more powerful. They went back to work. Reed and Mark doubled down. They improved the website. They made the algorithm smarter. They reduced the DVD delivery time. They hired better people. They studied what customers loved and gave more of it. And slowly, customer by customer, month by month, Netflix began to rise. Blockbuster didn't notice. They were busy making billions and enjoying power. But while they were sleeping, Netflix was building. Here's a very important detail most people don't know. Netflix introduced something that changed everything. A movie recommendation algorithm. In simple words, the Netflix website would watch what you rented, learn your taste, and suggest movies you would probably love. This made people stay longer on the website. It made choosing easier. It made Netflix feel personal. It wasn't just a DVD company anymore. It was a data-driven entertainment experience. And that one innovation made users feel seen, understood, and valued. By 2003, Netflix had crossed 1 million subscribers. People were loving the convenience. No more driving to the store. No more late fees. No more waiting in lines. Blockbuster started noticing the shift. They saw their revenue shrinking, but they still believed Netflix was temporary. To them, Netflix was a mosquito, not a threat. So what did Blockbuster do? They launched a copycat, Blockbuster Online. But it was too late. Netflix already had years of data, loyalty, and a better system. And most importantly, Netflix had no ego. Blockbuster didn't want to kill their stores, because they made billions from late fees. Netflix, on the other hand, had nothing to lose, only the future to build. By 2005, Netflix had millions of happy users, a brilliant tech system, low prices, and full control of the online rental space. Blockbuster kept falling behind. They tried. Cutting prices, mailing DVDs, removing late fees, too late. But people had already fallen in love with Netflix. Why? Because Netflix didn't punish them. Netflix didn't treat them like criminals for forgetting a DVD. Netflix made entertainment feel human, respectful, and modern. Let's talk about what was happening inside the company at this time. Reed Hastings believed in one core idea: give people freedom, treat them like adults. That's why Netflix had no strict dress code. Let employees take unlimited vacation as long as they delivered results. Focused on hiring smart, honest people and giving them space to do great work. This company culture created trust, innovation, and speed. While Blockbuster was stuck in rules, old systems, and arrogance, Netflix became a home for rebels, creators, and thinkers. Part 2. The boldest move that killed a giant. By 2006, Netflix was already winning the battle of DVD rentals. They had crushed Blockbuster's online attempt. They were reaching millions of subscribers, and their system, built on freedom, personalization, and no late fees, had become a silent movement. But Reed Hastings was still not satisfied. Yes, Netflix had grown. Yes, they had loyal customers. But Reed saw something that almost no one else saw at the time. He saw the end of DVDs. He saw the beginning of something invisible. He saw the future. Reed looked at his team and asked, what if people could watch movies instantly? No mail, no envelopes, no waiting. Everyone was confused. In 2006, streaming was a new word. Internet speeds were slow. Watching a full movie online seemed like a crazy dream. But Reed wasn't focused on today. He was building for tomorrow. He believed, if we don't disrupt ourselves, someone else will. Let's pause for a moment and explain the concept of streaming in the simplest way. Streaming means you don't download the movie, you don't wait for a DVD, you just click and the movie starts playing online, like magic. It's what we now use every day. But in 2006, it was revolutionary. There was no YouTube Premium, no Amazon Prime, no Disney Plus. Netflix was about to do something no one in the industry had dared to try. Reed told his engineers to build a system for online movie streaming. But there were challenges. Many customers still use slow internet. Movie studios didn't want to give online rights. No one had done this before at scale. Netflix took a risk. They invested millions in streaming technology. They started negotiating with studios to allow their films online. They trained their users to try watching online instead of waiting for mail. And in 2007, Netflix officially launched instant streaming. Some customers were excited. I can just click and watch? That's amazing. Others were confused. What if my internet is slow? What if the movie stops in the middle? Netflix knew this would happen. They weren't expecting overnight success, but they were betting on one powerful truth. The future always starts small. The internet would get faster, laptops would improve. People would eventually prefer convenience over physical media. While Netflix was quietly moving into streaming, Blockbuster was busy trying to catch up with DVDs, already too late. They were stuck in a cycle of ego and short-term thinking. Blockbuster believed, our stores make billions. People love coming in. Streaming will never work. They didn't see that customers were already tired of driving, tired of paying late fees, tired of standing in line, tired of being punished for forgetting a return. Netflix offered a quiet rebellion. Stay home, get comfortable, watch instantly. And people slowly started switching sides. By 2008, Blockbuster was falling fast. Their stock dropped. Their revenue shrank. Their loyal customers were leaving. Even their best employees were jumping ship to newer companies. They tried launching a streaming service, but they were years behind. and their brand had already been damaged. Netflix had taken the lead, not by being loud, but by being early, smart, and brave. And this time, there was no turning back. While Blockbuster was falling, Netflix kept innovating. Here's what they did next. Step by step. 1. They made streaming better. Netflix invested in content delivery networks, CDNs. These made movies load faster and play smoother. Video compression. So even slow internet could stream movies. Simple user interface. So even non-tech people could use it easily. They studied how people watched, when they paused, what they skipped, and used that data to improve everything. 2. They improved recommendations. Netflix didn't just show random movies. Their system noticed your habits, analyzed your past choices, recommended titles you personally were likely to love. This made people spend hours on Netflix because it felt like the platform knew them. 3. They expanded globally. After their US success, Netflix slowly moved into Canada, Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa. Each country had different tastes, languages, and cultures. So Netflix adapted, added subtitles, bought rights to local films, created language-specific interfaces. This helped them become a global brand, not just an American company. 4. They focused on trust. Netflix made sure their website never crashed. Streaming never failed. Payments were secure. Customer service was fast and kind. This made people trust them. And in business, trust is everything. By 2010, something unthinkable happened. Netflix was now the leader in home entertainment. Blockbuster, once worth billions, filed for bankruptcy. Their stores were shut down one by one. The company that laughed at Netflix was now dead. It wasn't a war. There was no fight in public. Netflix killed Blockbuster without screaming. They did it by evolving, by seeing the future, by listening to customers, and by staying focused while the giants slept. By now, people were saying, "Let's Netflix tonight." Are you watching anything on Netflix? I binged an entire show. Netflix wasn't just a company anymore. It was becoming a part of life. Just like Google means search, Netflix started meaning watch. That's when Reed Hastings and the team knew. We're not just a service, we're now the future of entertainment. Part 3. From renting to ruling. How Netflix became the world's entertainment king. By the end of 2010, Netflix had already done the impossible. They had destroyed Blockbuster, the most powerful name in movie rentals. They had changed the way people watched movies, from mailing DVDs to streaming online. They had become a trusted, growing, and beloved brand in millions of homes. But once again, Reed Hastings wasn't satisfied. He asked his team one simple but powerful question. What happens if one day the movie studios stop giving us their content? Because here's what most people didn't know. Netflix was only a platform. They streamed movies and shows, but they didn't own them. They were renting entertainment from major studios like Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, and others. And that was a dangerous place to be. Reed believed that the future of Netflix could not depend on other people. He wanted full control, because renting other people's content meant they could raise prices anytime. They could remove movies anytime. They could partner with Netflix's competitors anytime. So he told his team, "We are not just a tech company anymore. We are going to become a studio. We will create shows and films under the Netflix name." At first, many people thought this was a terrible idea. Netflix had no experience in film production, no Hollywood connections, no big actors, no directors, no track record. But Reed was used to doubt. He didn't care about opinions. He cared about direction. In 2011, Netflix heard that a few studios were discussing a remake of a British political drama called House of Cards. It wasn't a superhero story. It wasn't an action-packed blockbuster. It was a slow, serious, dark show about politics, betrayal, and power. But Netflix did something no one expected. They outbid major TV networks like HBO and NBC, offering $100 million to make 2 seasons of House of Cards. Yes. A tech company with no filmmaking experience just offered $100 million to make a serious drama. And they didn't ask for a pilot episode. They gave full freedom to the creators. Why? Because Netflix had data. They knew. Millions of people loved political dramas. Kevin Spacey, the lead actor, had a strong fan base. People who watched similar shows watched all the episodes, binge-watching. So Netflix trusted their data and made a massive bet. Here's what shocked the industry even more. When Netflix launched House of Cards in 2013, they didn't release 1 episode per week like TV channels. Instead, they dropped the full season, all episodes, at once. Why? Because their data showed that people loved binge-watching. They didn't want to wait a week for the next episode. They wanted to finish a show in 1 night, 1 weekend, 1 breath. This changed the entire TV industry. Now viewers had control over when and how they watched, freedom from TV schedules, power to decide their pace. House of Cards became a global hit. It won Emmy Awards, got amazing reviews, and gave Netflix credibility as a content creator. For the first time in history, a company that started with DVDs was now creating high-quality, award-winning shows on its own platform. This moment was a turning point. After House of Cards, Netflix moved fast. They built studios. They hired experienced producers. They signed deals with actors, writers, and directors. They created a new brand inside Netflix called Netflix Originals. This meant, this show or movie is made by us, belongs to us, and can only be found on Netflix. And that's when things exploded. Here are just a few of the shows that Netflix created in the next few years, each one becoming a global sensation. 1. Stranger Things, 2016. A sci-fi mystery about missing kids in a secret government lab. It had nostalgia, thrill, monsters, and heart. Made actors like Millie Bobby Brown global stars. Built a massive fan base across all age groups. 2. Narcos, the true story of Pablo Escobar, told like a crime documentary. Action, drugs, money, power, politics. A perfect mix of storytelling and real history. Loved by both English and Spanish-speaking audiences. 3. Money Heist, La Casa de Papel, a Spanish-language heist drama. Netflix bought the rights and re-released it with subtitles. It became a worldwide phenomenon. Showed that great content can come from any country, any language. 4. The Crown, a historical drama about the life of Queen Elizabeth II. Expensive, elegant, educational. Showed Netflix's ability to do prestige content. 5. 13 Reasons Why, Dark, You, The Witcher, and many more. Each show brought something new. New emotions, new audiences, new storytelling styles, and each one built Netflix's brand further. Netflix wasn't just making content randomly. They used their own user data to understand what types of stories people loved, see what actors had strong fan bases, learn which genres were missing from TV. This made their content decisions smarter than traditional studios. They were mixing creativity plus data. something old film companies didn't know how to do. By now, Netflix was doing something no one in history had ever done. They were creating shows that were watched in over 190 countries, translated into dozens of languages, streamed by people of all ages, backgrounds, and cultures. People weren't just watching Netflix. They were living inside Netflix stories. Characters became global icons. Soundtracks went viral. Merchandise exploded. Meme culture exploded. Netflix was no longer just a service. It was a global entertainment culture. Before Netflix, the entertainment industry was dominated by Hollywood. But Netflix proved that great stories can come from anywhere. That's why they invested in Korean dramas, Spanish thrillers, German science fiction, Indian originals, African documentaries, Turkish romance series. They gave creators around the world a platform, and the world responded with love. Some incredible global hits included Squid Game, Korea; Sacred Games, India; Lupin, France; Fauda, Israel; Elite, Spain. This global expansion helped Netflix reach more than 200 million paid subscribers worldwide by 2021. They weren't just a company anymore. They were the largest entertainment network on Earth. While traditional studios relied on box office sales, cable TV, advertisements, Netflix focused on subscriptions. Their logic was simple. If we make amazing content that people love, they will keep paying monthly, forever. This model worked beautifully. Why? Because it created predictable revenue. It didn't depend on box office hits. It gave them freedom to take risks. It gave creators artistic control, and it kept customers happy. No ads, no waiting, no nonsense. They made money through loyalty, not interruption. This was revolutionary. Internally, Netflix was building something just as powerful, a culture that attracted top talent. Their employee culture was based on two key values. 1. Freedom, you're trusted like an adult. 2. Responsibility. You're expected to act like a leader. They offered no micromanagement, no vacation tracking, no time clocks, but extremely high expectations. If someone didn't perform, Netflix let them go, kindly but clearly. If someone thrived, they were given more freedom, more impact, more opportunity. This created a team that was fast, smart, fearless, obsessed with improvement. This internal strength helped Netflix stay 10 steps ahead of the competition. Netflix's success was so massive that it woke up other tech giants. Soon, the battlefield got crowded. Amazon Prime Video launched. Disney Plus entered the game. Apple TV Plus joined. HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus, and many more began fighting for attention. Everyone wanted a piece of the streaming empire. But here's what mattered. Netflix wasn't afraid. Why? Because they had a 10-year head start, deep knowledge of their users, a massive content library, an unmatched global brand. Netflix knew the world is big enough for competition, but only the best will survive. And Netflix planned to stay the best. Once again, Netflix pushed boundaries. They launched shows where the viewer could control the story. Example: Black Mirror Bandersnatch. In these shows, you decide what the character does. Your choices change the outcome. It's like watching and playing a game at the same time. This was another signal that Netflix was not just following trends. They were creating them. While the public saw cool shows and easy streaming, behind the scenes, Netflix was becoming a technology powerhouse. They built custom video compression tools for faster streaming, used AI to personalize user recommendations, created original sound mixing systems, designed thumbnail images differently for each user. So you see a poster, you're more likely to click. They didn't just make content, they engineered the experience. Netflix became a perfect example of art meets science, creativity powered by data. When the world shut down during COVID-19, movie theaters closed, concerts stopped, events were canceled. But people still needed entertainment. They needed escape, emotion, connection, and comfort. Netflix became a lifeline. People streamed more than ever. New users signed up by the millions. Hits like The Queen's Gambit, The Crown, and Tiger King exploded globally. Netflix didn't just survive the pandemic, they thrived in it. Because they had already spent a decade preparing for a future of digital-first entertainment. By the time the world entered 2021, Netflix had already become more than just a streaming platform. It had become a global leader in entertainment, a culture people lived inside, a household name in almost every country on Earth. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. Success creates enemies. Fame brings pressure. And the top is always the loneliest place. In this chapter, you will see the real struggles Netflix began to face. The rise of powerful competitors, internal pressure to keep growing, backlash from critics and governments, public controversies, and how Netflix started to expand into completely new worlds. This is the part of the story where every empire gets tested. By 2021, the battlefield of streaming had changed dramatically. In the early days, Netflix was the only real player. But now, it was surrounded. Let's break down its biggest competitors and why they were dangerous. Amazon Prime Video, backed by Jeff Bezos, bundled with Amazon Prime shipping service. Huge money power, global scale. Invested heavily in content like The Boys, Reacher, and Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power. Disney Plus, backed by Disney, one of the most powerful media companies in history. Owned Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, National Geographic. Within 2 years, gained over 100 million subscribers. Family-friendly and filled with nostalgia. 3. HBO Max, known for high-quality content, Game of Thrones, Succession, The Batman. Had strong industry respect, positioned as the premium competitor. 4. Apple TV Plus, Peacock, Paramount Plus, and more. Each had their own strategies. Some focused on news, others on sports. All of them wanted one thing: to take Netflix's crown. For the first time in its life, Netflix wasn't alone anymore. It had to fight, not just for growth, but for survival at the top. The challenge with being number one is this: you can't stop growing, even for a second. Because Netflix had gone public, listed on the stock market, investors wanted more users, more revenue, more shows, more countries, more. Every quarter, Netflix had to prove that more people were joining, that people were staying, that content was working. This put enormous pressure on teams. Writers had deadlines. Engineers had to fix bugs instantly. Executives had to make bold decisions. Fast. The world only saw the glamour. But behind the scenes, it was a pressure cooker. With global fame came global judgment. Netflix now had political pressure, cultural criticism, religious backlash, moral debates, and endless scrutiny. Let's look at some major issues they faced. Content offense. Some groups, certain shows were seen as too violent or too sexual, or insensitive to religion or culture. In countries like India, Turkey, and the Middle East, this became a major issue. Netflix had to balance freedom of expression with local sensitivities. Some governments threatened to ban content. Others demanded censorship. Activists and public groups protested. Netflix had to respond carefully. Dave Chappelle special controversy. In 2021, Netflix released a stand-up special by comedian Dave Chappelle. Some people found it funny. Others found it deeply offensive, especially in the LGBTQ+ community. There were internal employee protests, public backlash, media storms. Netflix defended creative freedom, but it exposed the company to serious internal division. Account sharing issues. As Netflix grew, many people began sharing accounts with friends and family across households. This reduced revenue. Netflix announced they would start blocking or charging extra for account sharing, but this made users angry. Many people felt betrayed. We supported you for years. Now you want to charge more? Netflix had to manage this carefully because one wrong move could cost them millions of users. Despite pressure, Netflix never stopped evolving. Let's break down how they continued to innovate and where it worked and failed. Mobile-first strategy. Netflix began building shows especially for smartphones, especially in countries like India, Indonesia, and Africa. They introduced lower mobile-only pricing, vertical format experiments, more subtitles and dubbing options. The goal was to reach the next billion users. Gaming. Netflix made a bold move. They entered the gaming world. Why? Because they believed, if people love Netflix stories, maybe they want to play inside them. They launched Netflix Games, where users could download mobile games for free with their subscription. Some were based on Netflix shows, others were original. But this was a risky expansion, because building great games is completely different from streaming video. Still, it showed Netflix's hunger to evolve. Interactive stories and experiments. Netflix kept experimenting with choose-your-own-path stories, live streaming events, global watch parties, AI-generated recommendations. They believed, we are not just a movie company, we are the future of entertainment. But every innovation came with cost, risk, and the pressure to impress millions of users instantly. By 2022 to 2023, Netflix reported, for the first time, that they had lost subscribers. This was shocking. People were spending less. Competition was strong. Some were canceling to save money. Others were switching to cheaper platforms. Netflix stock dropped sharply. The media called it the fall of Netflix. People started asking, is the Netflix era over? But here's the truth. Every empire faces storms. What matters is how they respond. Netflix answered with better, stronger content. Wednesday, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Sandman, The Diplomat. New pricing tiers, including cheaper plans with ads, stricter rules on account sharing, and investment in global content creation from Korea, India, Nigeria, France, and more. They weren't just reacting. They were reinventing themselves again. And it started working. Their stock began recovering. Their subscriber base started rising again. And their belief in long-term thinking paid off. Once again. Netflix was no longer a young dream. It had become a global empire, and empires must fight to stay alive. But what made Netflix different was this. They didn't cry when challenged. They didn't panic when judged. They didn't blame others when growth slowed. They adapted. They changed. They experimented. They evolved. And they proved something powerful. Success is not about avoiding failure. Success is about rising. every time the world tries to pull you down. Part 4. The Legacy of Netflix and What the Future Will Remember. We've seen the full journey of Netflix so far. It started from a $40 late fee, faced rejection and humiliation by Blockbuster, took the world by surprise with streaming, created a revolution through original content, built a global empire across countries, languages, and cultures. And even after criticism, pressure, and competition, it fought back and continued evolving. But now we reach the final and most important chapter of this story. What is Netflix building next? What will its legacy be? And what can you, the viewer, learn from this journey? This isn't just about a company anymore. This is about a mindset, a way of thinking, building, and living that changed the world. As the world races into 2025 and beyond, entertainment is changing once again. The next revolution is not just about movies, shows, or even streaming. It's about something bigger: artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, interactive worlds, personalized storytelling, AI-generated content. And Netflix is already preparing for this future. Netflix is now investing in AI too. Understand every viewer at a deeper level. Create content suggestions not just based on past behavior, but based on mood, habits, location, and even time of day. Test titles, thumbnails, descriptions, and trailers in real time to see what works best. But that's just the beginning. Imagine this. One day, your Netflix app might show you a version of a movie where the ending is different for you, based on your emotional preferences. This is the world of personalized storytelling, powered by AI. Netflix is also experimenting with virtual reality VR, 360-degree interactive stories, augmented reality experiences where characters come into your real world. This means the future won't just be about watching a story. It will be about entering it. You might put on a headset and walk through a city from your favorite show. You might interact with characters. You might choose the direction of the story. Netflix knows that the audience of the future won't just be passive viewers. They will be participants. And they are preparing for it. Right now. While Netflix began as a small DVD company in California, it is now building production studios all over the world. Why? Because they believe the next big show won't just come from Hollywood. It might come from Nigeria, or Poland, or Brazil, or India. Netflix is hiring local talent, training new creators, supporting original voices, and bringing local stories to global screens. They are building a future where storytelling is truly global, where every voice has a chance. Netflix has also started programs to train young storytellers. They've launched screenwriting fellowships, animation workshops, documentary labs, support for female directors, programs for underrepresented creators. This is more than charity. It's a long-term bet. Because Netflix knows, if we want great content 10 years from now, we have to plant the seeds today. They're not just buying shows, they're building creators, the emotional core of Netflix's legacy. Behind all the data, all the code, all the deals and dollars, Netflix's story is about something very human. The power of obsession, the pain of rejection, the beauty of long-term thinking, the courage to evolve, even when you're winning. Let's now return to the beginning. To Reed Hastings. He was never trying to be a billionaire. He didn't start Netflix because he wanted fame. He was just a man who got angry over a $40 late fee. But instead of complaining, instead of blaming, instead of quitting. He built something that changed how the entire planet watches stories. That's what makes Netflix special. Now let's take everything from this 4-part story and bring it home to your life. Whether you're a student, an entrepreneur, a creator, a dreamer, here are the deep truths Netflix teaches us. 1. Build from pain. That $40 late fee wasn't just a charge, it was a spark. Your pain can either destroy you or launch you. 2. Start small, but start now. Netflix began with a single CD in a single envelope. Big things don't start big. They start quiet and uncertain. 3. Be ready to be laughed at. Blockbuster laughed at them. The world called them a joke. Even their families doubted the idea. But Netflix kept going. In silence. 4. Disrupt yourself before others do. They moved to streaming before the world was ready. They created originals before they needed to. They launched global content before anyone asked. Always ask, what's next? 5th, let data support creativity, not replace it. Netflix became great by mixing human stories with smart technology. Use both. Don't ignore either. 6, stay hungry even when you're full. Even after winning the world, Netflix never stopped improving. They reinvented themselves again and again. 7, make your own stage. When Hollywood wouldn't give them power, Netflix built their own platform. If no one gives you a chance, create your own table. 8, remember, loyalty is earned, not bought. Netflix built trust with its users. No ads, no punishment, just consistent value day after day. That's how you build something that lasts. So, what is Netflix really? It's not just a streaming platform, not just a tech company, not just a movie studio. Netflix is a philosophy. It says, even if you start with nothing, even if the world laughs at you, even if you get rejected 1,000 times, you can still build something legendary. If you stay quiet, stay focused, and never stop evolving. This is the true, full, and detailed story of Netflix. From a $40 late fee to over 250 million global subscribers, to changing the way humans experience entertainment forever. Netflix didn't just beat Blockbuster. They beat every excuse. They beat every limitation. They beat every doubt. And now, their story belongs to the world. If you felt inspired, moved, and empowered by this story, share it with someone who's building something of their own. Because you don't need to be loud to change the world. You just need to be clear, committed, and quietly obsessed. Subscribe to this channel. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We tell stories that wake you up, that remind you who you are and who you can become. More stories like this are coming, and you deserve to hear every one of them. So hit that subscribe button, and let's grow together.